I'll admit it, backpacking gear is expensive. I mean, it's just absolutely astronomical, some of the prices. Inflation has just ruined everybody's camping experiences overall. It's just really bad. So in this video, I'm gonna take you shopping.
Get in, loser, we're going shopping.
And I'm gonna show you the expensive gear that if you've got the money and you wanna spend the money and you're like, hey man, I can afford it, I'll show you the best of the best, what I would recommend. And I'm also gonna show you my budget or the inexpensive alternative. Now, this is all gear that I have used and Emmett has used over and over and over on multiple trips over the past several years, with the exception of just one item. And this one item we've used on just 2 backpacking trips, but I can tell you from the experience that I've had, it's good stuff. Now, I'm not gonna share every piece of backpacking gear out there. I'm gonna walk through the big 3, the backpack, the sleep system, and the shelter, because I think once you've nailed that down and you've got all of that you've purchased, then you've got the big bulk of your expense out of the way, and everything else is just sort of add-ons. And so we'll just jump into the big 3 right now. So Z-Packs, let's jump over to Z-Packs. This is the expensive backpack. I mean, this bad boy, it's like stupid expensive, but this thing is absolutely amazing. It is the Arc Haul Ultra backpack. Now, what you'll notice on this website is that whether you get the 40 liter, the 50 liter, the 60 liter, or even the 70 liter down here, they're all the same price. And the weight difference between a 40 liter and a 70 liter is 1.2 ounces. So if it's me, I'm buying the 70 liter backpack because that bad boy can handle a lot more stuff if you ever need it for, say, a winter backpacking trip, or you're just going on a short overnighter and you got a lot of food or whatever you're packing in there. Get the 70 liter. You're not even gonna notice the difference whatsoever. That's what I got. Now, this backpack is really comfortable. It's bomb-proof, and we've used it for a very long time. I think it's probably the best backpack, the most comfortable backpack I have ever used. Now, if you don't wanna spend $400 on a backpack, I get it. So, the inexpensive alternative is gonna be this one here over at Outdoor Vitals. It's the Shadowlight Ultralight Backpack, and you can see they are selling it for literally half the price of the Z-Packs backpack. Now, this backpack weighs just a little bit more, not a ton, and I would get the 60 liter because it's me and I'm a 60 liter tall. The tall is the measurement of your torso size, by the way, if you didn't know that. Yeah, and we're talking $209. This thing zips down the middle so you can access it without having to open up the top lid, so you can get to the bottom of your backpack really easily. It's got a ton of extra pockets on it for those people that are sort of hyper organized and you like to have extra pockets for things. And it's really comfortable. It can hold a decent amount of weight, about just as much weight, or maybe even more than the Z-Packs backpack, for half the price. And we've used this thing on multiple backpacking trips over the past couple years. And this may not sound like a super budget price for $200, but I challenge you to find me a less expensive, better backpack that is still gonna last you that long. Now, they're probably out there, but this is our experience. This is what I recommend, and this is what we've used, so we can say that, yeah, we think it's worth it, and we definitely have used it to prove that this will last. It's a great backpack. Let me tell you one item that's actually not expensive at all. It's probably the cheapest item on this list, and it's one of the cheapest items that you're ever gonna buy for backpacking. And if you decide to purchase it, it is the biggest supporter of this channel. So if you've ever wanted to support this channel, this is probably the #1 way to do that. Planning your trip is one of the most daunting tasks you'll ever do when it comes to backpacking, and an app called Onyx Backcountry actually helps you do that, all from the app. It helps you pick out trails, it helps you navigate the trails, it helps you find campsites, it helps you find water sources, it even helps you determine the weather for the entire area that you're gonna be backpacking in, and it does it all for $23 for the year with my discount code below. But if you want the elite version, which is even more awesome, it helps you find public and private lands so you know if you're actually camping or backpacking or hunting where you're actually supposed to be doing those things. And now there's a huge update to the app where it's not just for backpacking anymore. If you're a mountain biker, if you're a skier, if you're a climber, the app now has specific features to cater to those activities. So please help support this channel by supporting our sponsors. Click the link in the description below for 20% off of Onyx Backcountry. All right, let's jump over to the sleep system here. Now this this is expensive, but it's the ZenBivy ultralight quilt, and yeah, it's super expensive, but it is the closest I can get to feeling like I'm actually sleeping in my bed at home. I mean, this thing is next level comfortable. There are so many cool things about this quilt, but you have to buy it as a set for it to act like a bed at home, and we'll explain what it is right here. So this is the quilt, and let me just say I recommend that you get the 10 degree, okay, because the 10 degree is actually like a 20 degree comfort rating, or maybe even a 25 degree comfort rating, which is like, that's what I'm buying, because you buy it once, you never have to buy any different, or you usually wouldn't have to buy a different temperature rating, because the chance of you going below that is pretty slim. Everything that I own is a 20 degree comfort rated piece of gear for sleep systems. So that's what I would recommend. So you saw the price go from the 25 degree from $409 to $579. Now that's just for the quilt. If you're just gonna buy a quilt from ZenBivy, don't do it. I do not recommend it at all. Go buy a quilt at the next place I'm gonna tell you to buy a quilt, because it's way less expensive, and I found that it works just as good. Okay, so you have to buy the sheet, and you can see that this sheet also comes with a hood, but you're not gonna want the uninsulated one, and you're probably not gonna want the 25 degree one, although you'd probably be okay if you're a warmer sleeper to get the 25 degree down one, because you can wear a hat or maybe your puffy jacket. But watch the price jump from $89 to $149 for the 25 degree one to $179. So we just went up a lot of money, almost $100 to get the 10 degree, and that's just the hood that's insulated. That's not like anything else but the hood, but it acts like a sheet, and it's very, very lightweight. Now, the way that this works is that the sheet clamps onto the quilt, but it clamps onto the quilt in a way where you feel like you're not constricted. You feel like it's just a sheet laying over the top of you, but when you roll around, you don't get drafts. It's like a dream. It's really, really nice. So if you can afford it and you want to have the best sleep in the backcountry, definitely get this setup. Now, once you get the sheet and the quilt, you're gonna go down here and you're gonna find the ultralight mattress, okay? And you're gonna click on that and you're gonna scroll down and you're gonna see that this thing is 189 bucks. That's fine. But I want the wider one. That's $200 for this mattress. And this is an R5 rated mattress. It is very comfortable. The only thing with this mattress that I found is that if it's not really inflated well, not sort of underinflated, so you can't really have too much leeway in how much you inflate it. My hips did hit the ground with this sleeping pad, so I really had to have this thing almost inflated to where I didn't think it was super comfortable. Other people that I've seen review this pad think it's very comfortable. They didn't have that situation. I'm just gonna tell you, I did, okay? Now, if you want a longer one, it's not gonna give me a price because it's out of stock. Maybe it's the same price, I don't know. But 200 bucks for this sleeping pad. If you don't wanna spend, $600 for this setup, you can always get the alternative, which is what we've used for many years, and you can get the Outdoor Vitals Storm Loft down top quilt. Now, this is the 0 degree one. We're not gonna get the 0 degree one. We're gonna go ahead and get the 15 degree one, and you can see that the price goes down to 329 bucks. So this is now almost half the price of the ZenBivy. Now, you're not gonna get a sheet, and you're not gonna get the insulated hood, and that's fine, because all you're gonna do in this situation is you're gonna wear your puffy jacket and you're gonna put up your hood. And this quilt is super wide. When it's strapped down, it really doesn't pull up when you roll over. This is one of the few quilts that I've never gotten a cold draft in as long as it's strapped down appropriately. So this is my favorite backpacking quilt outside of the ZenBivy. with that whole setup. This thing is absolutely amazing. I absolutely love this thing. The only downside to this quilt is that it has the string that is sort of in the middle of the quilt. So when you're on your back and it's on your face, it can get in the way of your face. That's kind of annoying. But other than that, this thing is phenomenal. So if you don't want to spend $600, you can get this thing. We've tested it. It's awesome. We love it. This sleeping pad that I'm going to show you is, you probably have never seen it before. We did talk about it in a video about a month ago. We've used it on 2 backpacking trips. I'm taking it to Colorado next week so I can have a little bit more to say about it. But so far, I've loved this thing. It is the Flextail Zero mattress. You probably didn't even know Flextail, the pump manufacturer, made sleeping pads. Now look, check this out. If you get the regular one, which is 25 inches wide, okay, and it's only $140, and this is for an ASTM rated R5 sleeping pad, which means that you could literally use this the entire year. An R5 pad is something you could lay on snow and be warm. I've had success with laying my sleeping pad on snow at about 3.5, maybe 4, and been totally fine. R5, I think you're gonna be just fine. Now, you're not gonna wanna take this too far below freezing because really it's gonna get to the point where it's gonna get too cold, but this is a phenomenal pad that you could just buy once and be done. Now, check this out. So maybe you've always wanted that little zero pump or some pump to go with your mattress. Watch this. If you get the pump, it's only $164 with the pad. So that is absolutely insane. If you wanted the pump by itself, the pump is like $50, but with the pad, it's discounted. This is probably the most inexpensive sleeping pad that's ASTM rated, that's all season, that you're ever gonna get. And it's very comfortable. I can tell you that. The sides are raised up just slightly so you don't feel like you're gonna roll off. It actually feels wider than it is. I really like this sleeping pad. Now, the only sort of odd thing about this sleeping pad is that the valve is on the bottom of the sleeping pad. So I asked them if that was a mistake. It's not. They said that they put it there on purpose. I didn't find any issues with it, but if I wanted to make adjustments in the middle of the night, like letting a little bit of air out, or if I wanted to fill it up a little bit more for whatever reason, it's just kind of in an inconvenient spot. But if you're saving that amount of money, I can live with that. All right, let's move on to the number 3 of the big 3, the shelter. So the best tent that I could find out there that I think is just phenomenal, and it's also super expensive, is the Offset Solo tent from Z-Packs. This thing is great. Now, there's obviously other tents out there. Like, I know all of you are screaming at me in the comments right now that you should be getting the X-Mid Pro. Yes, that is also a fantastic tent. Probably just as good as this one. But I like this one because it's got a lot more headroom in it. So this thing is $650. That is astronomical for a tent. A couple things I absolutely love about this tent. Number 1, the weight. It's 17.5 ounces or 496 grams. It has an incredible amount of headroom, like the Taj Mahal. I mean, this thing is just absolutely huge. It's fairly easy to set up. It does take a lot of stakes, takes 8 stakes, but for what you get, this thing is great. It does come with an extra pole to sort of offset the end, which is kind of a bummer because it's just one of those things that you could maybe lose or break, but you can always, I guess, use a stick if you had to, if you did lose it. But I'm just telling you, if you can afford it, I love this tent. I've also used the Offset Duo, which is a little bit wider if you got extra people with you. This thing is great. And it's a solo tent, which means it's a one-person tent, but when you're in it, it doesn't feel like a one-person tent. I mean, this thing is just absolutely enormous. All right, now you're probably looking at me going, yeah, Dan, that's just outrageous. I would never spend $650 in a tent. I don't blame you. You can get away with spending a whole lot less if you go over to Durston Gear and you get the X-Mid one-person tent. Now, this thing is phenomenal. This is an absolutely amazing trekking pole tent. It's only $234. I will say it's a little bit heavier, okay? So you are gonna have added weight to this tent. And the inside does feel a lot smaller. So when you're laying in it, it's It's skinny, so if you're claustrophobic, it might not be the tent for you, but it just fits a 25-inch wide tent. And then also the headroom is good, but it's not great. So it's a good tent, but for the price, $234, I mean, come on, you can't beat that. So I would tell you, if you don't want to spend a ton of money on another tent, this is the tent for you. This is by far, in my opinion, in our opinion here, the best budget, inexpensive trekking pole tent you could possibly get. Okay, let's say that trekking pole tents aren't your thing. You want a freestanding tent. I've got you. We're gonna go over to Nemo's website and we're gonna look at the Hornet Elite. This is the Osmo version, which is the new updated version. And if you get the 2-person version, which is what I would recommend, because the 1-person version is a little skinny in my opinion. You're gonna save $100 there, but if you're already spending $550, just go ahead and get the 2-person version. Everything about this tent is amazing. I mean, absolutely everything, especially if you're not gonna bring trekking poles. This thing is so nice because the footprint is small, the headroom is decent, it's not great. You get 2 vestibules, you get all kinds of room on the inside, and this thing weighs just barely 2 pounds with tent poles. So let me put that in perspective for you. Most of you are probably carrying trekking poles that are 8 ounces a piece or more. So that's 16 ounces. That makes this tent technically the same weight as the Z-Pack's Offset Solo at 17.5 ounces. So this is like 17.5 ounces if you add the fact that you're carrying 16 ounces worth of trekking poles. This is an amazing tent for what you get. So $650 though, still a crap ton of money. Okay, so if you don't want to spend that much money, I got you. Okay, I'm gonna tell you what you're gonna get. You're gonna go over to Paria Outdoor Products' website. You're gonna click on the Bryce 1-person tent, and you're gonna see that this tent is a fully freestanding tent for $160. Now, Emmett and I have had this tent on, I don't even know how many backpacking trips. And we've since moved away from it because Emmett found a different tent that I've got that he likes a little bit more, which is actually the less expensive Nemo Hornet. But we've used this tent so many times, it's not even funny. $160. You can get this thing down to just under 3 pounds for a fully freestanding tent for $160. You are not going to be able to beat this tent. And the inside of the tent actually feels like a 1.5-person tent. So you get a ton of room in this thing, and the footprint isn't terrible. The downside to this tent would be it is a little bit heavier, big deal for $160, and you have a head entrance to get in the tent. It's only 1 door to get in the tent, and it's at the head of the tent. So when you wake up in the middle of the night, you got to kind of climb up over the top of where your pillow is at to get out. Not that big of a deal because it's $160. So at the end of the day, I will say this to you. If you're going to backpack a ton, if you're gonna thru hike some big long trail, consider the expensive stuff because it's the one and done. It's the stuff you always wanted. You're putting a ton of your life into this trail and backpacking thing. Just go ahead and treat yourself if you can afford it and get the expensive stuff. But this is how much all of what we just listed is gonna cost you. However, if you don't backpack a ton, if maybe you're even going just a few times a year, maybe you're not gonna thru hike that big trail. Maybe you're just getting into backpacking and you want some decent stuff that's gonna last years and years and years. Get the inexpensive list that I talked to you about. I think it's the best stuff that you could possibly get for the money, and this is what it's gonna cost you. So you can see at the end of the day, the difference in price is huge. What do you guys think? Did we pick the right gear? Is it the best backpacking expensive stuff? And is this the good, cheap alternative to the best backpacking stuff? Let me know in the comments below what you would have picked. We'll see you on the next one.
YouTube is a rabbit hole of information. So in order to solve that problem, I wrote a backpacking course where I took my 10 years of backpacking experience and the 400 YouTube videos that I filmed and condensed it down into just 18 videos and a few lessons for you to learn. All you have to do is go to my brand new website, danbeckeroutdoors.com, and look for the course.